Welcome back to another episode of Keeping It Real with Najeh. We got a lot to talk about today, man. Big news this week, right? You had Edric Houston committing to The Ohio State University. Juju Lewis committing to USC, one of the first 2026s to commit. We're also going to have him feature in our Rome versus Carrollton game in a few weeks on TV, on Peachtree TV. You can also stream it on the Atlanta News First app, so definitely stay tuned for that. Craig had a great write-up about that a couple days ago, kind of talking about the decision. And then we also had a daily dive yesterday from Seth Ellerby. He talked a little bit about the Great Atlanta Bash, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's our headline event for this weekend. 4 top matchups. One, Carver Atlanta versus Calhoun, followed up by Douglas County versus Mays, and then you got Miller Grove versus Jackson Atlanta, and then Douglas versus Booker T. So major matchups, man. We're super excited. Friday and Saturday. Probably leave out about 7 p.m. On Saturday, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Also, I got some intel on Blessed Trinity players, some major marquee players, great freshman and David Jacobs Jr. Also, great receiver in Bryce Lewis. So let's talk a little bit about his recruiting. He just recently committed to Arizona, so I had some good insight on that. My article is also up on scoreatl.com, detailing a little bit about his decision, what he liked about the schools, and things like that. And Craig actually talked to their play-by-play commentator, Hank Joseph, yesterday. So if you didn't get a chance to see that, we will have a clip coming out on that pretty soon. Got somebody in the office working on it for us, Elizabeth, so she's helping us out with that. But definitely go check out the interview Craig Sager had with Hank Joseph, getting some really good intel on the team. Big win, week 1, 17-7 against a pretty good Calhoun team. And I think the good thing, as Craig mentioned, is that we'll be able to see Calhoun early in the season, get to see, how good they're going to be, because they play in a tough region, right? You got Hiram in there, you got Cartersville, Cass. I mean, week 1 is almost, it's not like preseason, but you have to take it with a grain of salt, right? And that's because you can have a team that starts 0-1 or 0-2. We see in the NFL and college all the time, but then they hit their stride late. They start getting better and better and better. So I don't want to go out on the sales yet or say that, I don't think Cass is going to be good. I don't think Calhoun's going to be good. It's early. But what I love about this weekend is we'll be able to see them up close and personal and see how good Calhoun is, because they got a bunch of weapons, good team, led by Clay Stevenson. And I think they have not missed the playoffs in the last 6 to 7 years. So I don't think they're going to break that streak this year. But we got a player we're going to analyze in the first segment, Noah King from Fairfield, Ohio. Goes to Fairfield High School. Very good athlete. Was a big component of their offense last year as they graduated 2 leading receivers. I expect big things from him in his junior season. Currently has offers from West Virginia, Bowling Green, Toledo, and Miami of Ohio. He received 4 offers this past summer. So busy summer for Noah King, and I think they opened up the season last week, and they got a big game against Sycamore kind of coming up, but it's a 58-51 thriller, and Ohio, they end up losing. High point game, but let's go ahead and roll this tape. All right, so right here you're going to see him playing kind of the X position. Nice like slant route, using his hands right there. All right, he's going to run the slot right here. Great go route. Defense falls asleep right there. Look at him hop with the football all the way downfield. Great big play right there. Defense got lost. This is a great play as well. You're going to really see his catch radius over across the middle of the field. Contested area. Big time major catch right there. Here he is playing the X again. One-on-one coverage right here. Nice move, little in and out move. Not the best throw, but good adjustment by Noah just to kind of be where it is. Right here he's going to run kind of the slot. Nice move again. Not the best throw, but look at him adjust to the football. Come back forward, kind of underthrown. Really love that about his game. His adjustment to the football. Same thing here. Deep ball. Look at him adjust to the football. I mean, great job. Not the best throw, but again, great adjustment to the football, being open, helping out his quarterback. Right here, we actually high pointed it. Look at this. Very, very impressive right there. I mean, I had to slow it down for y'all. He just does a really great job of just using his hands, catching the ball, and just being a different breed. Right here again, nice little route. He just kind of run a little dig in the middle of the zone. Nice play right there. Huge catch radius. What I like too about his game, Obviously it's short clips, but he's a 3-star according to 247 Sports, one of the higher rated players in Ohio. The balls weren't the best, right? But he still found a way to catch it. He found a way to adjust to the football. And sometimes you'll see receivers get frustrated with that. And you didn't see that across his game. I mean, that's what I kind of really, really enjoyed, is that he was making adjustments to the football. There were some awkward positions, but he just made great reads, great catches, very dynamic athlete. Talked to him a little bit and talked about kind of playing DB and receiver. He runs track as well. Rich history in that. He said that's kind of helped him on the field. And I talked to him a little bit, and he told me that he would recommend anybody, especially if they're going to play on the next level, which is, kids coming up from youth football and then going to high school. He said to run track. He said the speed that you get, it translates to the field and allows you to have kind of longer bursts. And I talked to a couple people before, and they kind of said and mirrored kind of the same thing, right? It really helps you out. So he talked about that, and he talked about kids just kind of being multifaceted and being versatile, right? And that's what really helped him in his game. So really impressive player, plays both sides of the ball for Fairfield out of Ohio. I think he has a bright future ahead. Definitely only a junior 2025 class. So we're going to see, kind of how his career kind of shakes out. But 2 more good years. Humble kid, smart, good catch radius, and really makes his quarterback look good. So that's some of my standouts from kind of his tape. And I have more on him down the line. But we're going to go ahead and transition to our next part of the first segment. We're going to talk a little bit about latest recruiting intel. And I have to say, I was really impressed with Blessed Trinity, right? Again, at the start of the show, we talked about how they beat Calhoun 17-7, kind of a defensive game. But they got so many players, right? I went by campus and got to see some of them. The freshman running back they got coming up that not a lot of people know about, 14 years old, but it kind of reminds you a little bit of Braden Tyson from Brookwood, right? About 6 foot, nice body, fills out well. And that's what's so impressive about the freshman running backs this year, is that they're already getting good playing time. They're already getting in the rotation, and they haven't built out their bodies yet. And I think that's the kind of most impressive part. And he's kind of the same way. So he's going to be a bright player for them. They got a nice guard and Paul Harrington, who's kind of started to get major offers, right? He's a good 6'5", 350, got a PWO from Georgia, has offers from Reinhardt and several other programs. He kind of talked about how Georgia's kind of his dream school. He definitely fits the size. He's very agile, can move around. So I definitely think, man, if he has a good season and if Blessed Trinity can have a good season, he can definitely continue to get better. And then that freshman tailback I told you guys about is Braden Oblis. So that's one to know. Write that down if you're watching the show. He's going to be a big player for them, and I mentioned DJ Jacobs as well. But the other player that I wrote an article on and talked to him a lot in detail was Bryce Lewis, right? Bryce Lewis is 6'6", 205. Him and Brooks Goodman, the junior quarterback, have a really, really great connection. And as I said, go to Score ATL and read the full article. But he went to 5 different unofficial visits. He recently, as I said, committed to Arizona. And he talked about what stood out about Tucson, what he liked about the coaches, how it kind of made him feel like a family, and things like that. But the guy has major Power 5, just offers, right? He got Kansas State, Virginia, just got offered by Vanderbilt. I mentioned Arizona. Wisconsin's interested. He visited Wake Forest. Boston College he also visited. But all the intel in that article, you guys can read it there. But what impressed me most about him is just his mindset and his mentality, right? And he kind of took an onus. Most times you hear players say, okay, hey, I want to reach this goal. I want to have double-digit touchdowns. I want to have 70, 80 receptions. But he did say he wanted to have about 6 to 8 receptions per game. But what he said about his team, right? And he kind of took the onus of saying that, a lot of times when my team, or if we get a loss, we'll come in Monday and the energy's down. We're kind of like going through the motions. We're not clapping. We're not hyped. So he even said this year he's taking it on himself to be a leader and to really, kind of be the vocal leader of the team and to kind of, hold everybody accountable. And obviously, like, you can hear that a lot, but, you can sense it in him when you talk to him. And he takes it really serious. And he talked about a relationship with Coach Ed Dudley, who's their first-year head coach, and kind of the offensive coordinator and the receiver coach. And he talked about how they held him accountable. How he came in, he was like, I went through the motions, I'll work out, yada yada. But he talked about how they changed his mindset from being laid back and chill to more, I guess you could say just taking that leadership role, being accountable for your actions. So I think that's a part of him and his game that really impressed me, and just holding his teammates accountable, holding himself accountable, and things like that. So I mean, 6'6", 205, and another thing that's underrated about him is that he likes to block. Like a lot of times you'll see players, they just want the big play. And you're thinking that his frame 6'6", okay, he's just a jump ball guy, huge catch radius, but this guy actually goes across the middle of the field. He has a good burst after he catches the ball. A lot of times you see on his huddle film, he's running screen plays. He's running slants, digs, hitches. So he's not just a big play, jump ball, 9 route kind of a guy. He does all the little things well. And I think that's what's most impressive about him and why he's been so big in recruiting. And if you go look at some of his tape too, you'll see him kind of sealing the edge, right? Shutting up the key block for his running back so they can get to the second level of the field and make a big play. I think that's another part that's really impressed me. So that's obviously one to watch for this season. Just as Junior has, basically 2 more years at Blessed Trinity, and then him and Brooks got a really good connection. They've been playing with each other since 8th grade. He talked about how they practice after kind of practice is over. They go out there and they still going to go run routes, build the chemistry. They did a lot of 707s this past summer. So they got a good connection. And Brooks impressed me too. Brooks is a really smart kid. 4.2 GPA. And I think what's underrated about Blessed Training is that the academic rigor is different, right? And there's another kid on their team that has an MIT offer, and the kid takes 7 AP classes. I've never heard that before. Just 7 to 8 AP classes, and then he's just. It's like, how does he have time? How does he have time to do really anything? But he says, for 33, he says like, oh well, I love being able to go home and study for hours. I love being able to kind of just lock in into my craft and things like that. But I thought he was impressive too. But back to Brooks, again, 4.2 GPA. Challenged himself on the field. He actually became a starter last year. He beat out a junior at the time as a sophomore. Had a pretty good season, right? I think he threw close to almost 2,000 yards, 14 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. Had a really good debut for Blessed Trinity, 200-plus yards passing, 85% completion percentage, and a touchdown. So they got a really good offensive line. I think he's going to be due for a big year. They got a bunch of weapons, Zion McKenzie, Bryce Lewis. They got a bunch of guys that they can throw at you. So I think they're going to have some marquee games this year, right? They got to play Maris, who they lost to last year. Brooks talked about kind of getting revenge against that and going to go beat them. They're in the same, I think, region with Roswell and Alpharetta. So that region is going to be interesting, especially if Blessed Trinity is good. We know Roswell's going to be good. We know Alpharetta's going to be good. But if you're throwing Blessed Trinity as kind of that other team, I think it'll be really, really interesting to see, who kind of comes out on top. And if they can throw the ball like they did, and Brooks continues to get better and take step forward, which he certainly can, I think you got a very, very dangerous team. So that's a little bit of the intel on that team. I think it'll be interesting to watch. I like Coach Ed Dudley. He's actually at our Hall of Fame event last year. I think Craig brought him. And actually, shout out to, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Craig, but shout out to Craig's stepdad. He's actually the offensive coordinator at BT. So that's also something interesting as well. I learned that the other day. So, and both of the players, Bryce, I talked about 4 or 5 players. They all raved about how Coach Allen does a great job. They feel comfortable with the scheme that he's throwing out there. They feel like the offense kind of flows with him, and they feel like any questions they have, he answers them, and he explains it in a coherent way where they can understand. So, I think that's going to be great.
Just add 15 seconds to our break.
Say it again. Quinn Davis, the receiver. Okay.
They don't have to.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, so Quinn Davis. Okay, that'll be another guy to watch out for them. So that's what I got on Blessed Trinity. If you want to know more about Bryce Lewis, definitely go read that article. But we're going to move to our next segment a little bit before we take a break. We're going to talk about just the implications, I think, of education going to Ohio State. I think Ohio State now has really bolstered their recruiting class. I think they have the most 5-star prospects in the 2024 class that I saw on 3 or 247 that kind of came out. We already know they got Prentice Nolan. Just to talk about him, he balled out. Great season opener, I thought. Just It was a challenge. I think for both quarterbacks, it was a challenge. Despite the points, you might say, oh, it was 39-34, but I think the defenses challenged them enough. And that was my biggest question. How will the secondaries match up? And what really helped Langston was their ability to run the ball. And they used Justice Savage in a great way just to kind of break him up. And he rushed for a lot of yards and rushed for a couple touchdowns. And what was so great about the game and why I think exposure is so great and why we have to bring it to other sports across Georgia is that he picked up an Indiana offer right after that game, right? That was his first Power 5 offer for a guy that ran for 1,000 yards in that backfield last year. So that's my whole point. Just that exposure being on ESPN, him balling out, hey, who is this guy? And it's not like Justice Savage doesn't have the size, right? I think he's a good 6'1", 6'2". He has the body and everything, but it just kind of overlooked. And now he's kind of on people's radar. So, I mean, just to kind of digress a little bit, you love to see that. But I think Ohio State's doing their thing, man. I mean, they're going to lose Marvin Harrison after this year, but I heard they got a guy at Carnell Tate that came from IMG Academy that's looking like he's going to get a big role, right? And just got the commitment from Jeremiah McClellan, who's an explosive receiver. Got to see him in Hoover. Kid can just play, right? They got Prentice Arnola coming in, who's a 5-star, can throw the football well. Ryan Day and the recruiting coordinator in their class is just doing a phenomenal job. And on top of that, you got Jelani Thurman coming in. Ohio State got some dudes, so they're going to be able to compete once again. I think it'd be interesting to see how they're going to look at quarterback this year because, no C.J. Stroud, so how will the quarterback come in? But they're not going to be devoid of any kind of weapons over the next couple of years because they're doing an outstanding job recruiting. So just a little bit about Edric Houston, man. Great story. You could tell, he's kind of just all about ball, right? Even he said you could just see at the interview, and that was, I think Rusty Manziel kind of handled that with High Five Sports with Fox. And I think he was on 2 for 7 too, where they announced the decision. But you could just tell, he didn't waste any time in the interview. Edric didn't. He was kind of like, yeah, this has been fun, but kind of want to get it over with. Let me get back to ball. And that's kind of what I got from the interview. And, he's a humble guy. And when I interviewed him at the Court Kell luncheon, all he kept talking about was team, team, team. How do we improve as a team? How do we not go out in the second round again? How do we come back and make it back to a state title? And what really impressed me was just what he said about Bryce Perry Wright and just mentoring him, right? He was like, it's not really about me. It's about passing it down to the guys that are coming up, like Bryce Perry Wright. And he mentioned him multiple times, and he was like, I just enjoy mentoring him, seeing where his game is at, and I just want to pass the torch so when I'm not here anymore and I'm playing at college, he knows the right way to do things. And I think that was really profound. And I think he did a great job of just explaining that. So, I mean, Ohio State is getting a great player in Edric Houston. He's a dominant force. He's a guy that doesn't quit on plays. He gives maximum effort and energy. So the kid is great, is explosive. I can't wait to watch him up in a couple of weeks when they play against Marietta. And I think that'll be a very, very interesting game. But great get, and it looks like Buford players continuing to leave the state of Georgia and go to other programs. I thought KJ might, potentially go to Georgia with Dylan Raiola, but that obviously didn't happen. He went to Florida State. So I think it's really, really interesting where we sit right now. But Buford is a very talented group. We'll see what happens. But congrats to KJ. And then also congrats to Edric Houston, some great players. Can't wait to see them play on the next level. I know they're going to be great. But we're going to take a quick short break, thank our sponsor, NFHS Network, and be back on the other side with more news. All right, guys. So we're back from break. Some news as well. If you guys are not subscribed to Georgia High School Football Daily newsletter, make sure you do that. It's all over our website. Man, they drop news all the time, guys. 4 a.m. early in the morning. Kind of get your morning scoop. That's really what they should call it, morning scoop with Georgia High School Football Daily, because they're always dropping news and rankings and players and interviews. I mean, they do a great job, man. So. Just want to shout them out. We're also going to have, guys, we have the Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame. We're going to be dropping a player pretty much every day. We started that this week. We're going to have 5 more players next week. So if you guys check out the letter, we'll let you know a little bit about the inductees this year. Get your tickets, $65 for induction and then $110 for VIP. So 105? Oh, 115. Oh, that changed from yesterday, Graham. You said 110 yesterday. Yes, you did. I wrote it down. Graham's changing prices, I see. But yes, go get your tickets for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be in the Georgia High School Football Daily newsletter. So that'll be a lot of fun. And me, Craig, and Seth are helping put that together. So stay tuned for that. And that's right around the corner. It's going to be, I believe, October 21st. That's going to be the bye week of Georgia Bulldogs. So we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. All right, so Wayne County's Fuller, he opens up with a career night. Great turnaround from the head coach, right? They were 0-9 in 2021. They ended up with a 10-3 record the year after. So Matt Fuller, he's been kind of that key piece, that key player that's kind of made the difference for them. He's actually currently committed to South Carolina. He led the Yellow Jackets last season with 1,757 yards and 90 tackles. So, big play from Fuller last season. He's off to another great start. Get this, Craig, 291 rush yards and 4 touchdowns. Both were career highs in his last game, week 1. He also had 4 tackles as well, and that was on only 14 carries. So very impressive debut for him. Wayne County ended up winning 49-20 over Bradwell Institute. So he's one of 28 seniors that decided to do everything that can put this football program back on track, said his head coach Shaw. It is a special group that loves each other and loves Wayne County. So Fuller ended up being the GHSF, Georgia High School Football Daily, State Player of the Week, and he will be presenting the award sponsored by Sports Surf on Thursday at his school, which is actually today. So that will be a lot of fun. But before I move on to my next section, which is actually basketball, I want to talk a little bit about the major games today. Got 2 Georgia schools playing in Florida, down south in Miami in the 954. We got Cedar Grove. I believe they're going to play Coconut Creek. Everything will be streamed on NFHS Network as well. They're going to play Monarch at 7:30. So Cedar Grove, they had a good win against a good Dutchtown team year in, year out. They're competitive. They're good. They make semis. They make it to the state championship game. Dutchtown's always good out there in 5A. So big win for them. 1-point win. They end up playing Monarch. Monarch has not. This is their first game of the season, so it'll be interesting to see how kind of they come out as well. Monarch last year was 9-3, ended up being 3-0 in their district, and ended up losing in the second round in the overtime game to Palm Beach Garden. So, Cedar Grove, hopefully we can get another game with them on TV. We did get to see them when they beat Calvary Day, who has a pretty good roster this year, and had a good one last year and really stud players. But their defense was just on another level in that game, in that playoff game. But Cedar Grove will be interesting, right? Lost some pieces. Don't have Devin Carter anymore, who's at another school. Carter is one of the top players in the 2026 class. Actually committed to Florida State. But they were able to pass well. But I think the big thing is, defensively they gave up a lot of points. That's kind of out of the ordinary for, Cedar Grove. Cedar Grove is usually pretty good defensively. So we'll see. They lost, obviously, some players. But we know last year, they did a really good job. And just to talk a little bit about their defense, and to kind of reiterate that, guys. So just their playoff run last year, they had 2 shutouts, and they held the team to 7 points, right? Bremen, they beat them 48-7 in round 1. Hebron Christian was a higher scoring game, beat them 70-33. They shut out Calvary Day and Explosive offense 30-0, and they shut down Oconee County's offense 23-0. And then we know, obviously, that rivalry with Sandy Creek, that one went back and forth, 21-17. Obviously, that blown call, yada, yada. But pretty historically, like the last probably 5 to 7 years, Cedar Grove's had a pretty good defense. So I think that'll be another good test for them. They're obviously having fun. Big game tonight for them. Curious to see how John Adams and crew gets to come out. But the big one is going to be Milton. And as I've said, I think Milton flies under a lot of people's radars. And as a team that, they don't think they're going to be as good, I guess, in 7A. But they're my sleeper. I think 7A is going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. A lot of great teams, despite, I think it's going to be some really good parity this year. You're going to have a lot of good teams in there, right? You got Walton, you got Buford, you got Carrollton. I throw Milton in there. Norcross surprised me week 1. We'll see how they continue to look. Westlake, thank you, Craig. Almost forgot about them. Am I forgetting a team? I think those are like my top ones right now. But a lot of people are kind of concerned about Milton because they beat Collins Hill 27-13, even though they forced 6 turnovers. And I think the thing with that game is Collins Hill is a lot better than most people think, right? I'm not saying they're a state championship contender, but what I'm saying is they're going to be competitive, and I think they could be a playoff team. Obviously, they can't keep turning over the ball 6 times, but I think Coach Swick has a good pulse on that team, and obviously he's going to have that defense playing. And the good thing is we're going to get to see them on TV, which I'm excited about. They actually play Mill Creek. And I think it's going to be a good game. Our Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame doubleheader, we increased it this year from 1 game to 2 games. And I really want to see them in person because I talked to Coach Swick a couple times this summer, and he said the defensive line is averaging 6'3", 250. And they gave a little bit of problems to the Milton offensive line early, right? They were forcing sacks, kind of speeding up Luke Nickel, who I think from year 1 as a starter to year 2 is taking some massive steps forward. They have so many weapons that they could throw at you. But I think that was a good game, good week 1 game for Milton to show them, okay, hey, we talented, we know what we can do, but we're going to face defensive fronts like this if we want to have a chance at a state title, right? We're going to have to face a Buford defensive line that's really good, right? We're going to have to face other teams that have, good defensive lines. And I think that was good to see kind of where they're at. And they ended up winning. But like I said, I think it was a testament to show how good Collins Hill is going to be this year. But nonetheless, I can't wait to see them in person. They're going to play a pretty good Western team out of Davie, Florida. So I think it'll be interesting how they match up, right? How does Davie stop their weapons, right? I think TJ Lester was dealing with the injury. How does he kind of, come out? Is he going to get to play? They got Shamar Vick, who was the cousin of Michael Vick, the Atlanta Falcon great. They got another good running back in there as well. And I really want to see – I got to see him rotate in their scrimmage against Gainesville a little bit. Christian Pancake Hunter, who played in our Georgia League Classic. But I want to see, how much does he actually play in full game speed? I know he has a senior that starts above him, but he's getting some good playing time. And Milton got some good 27 guys as well. So I think it's going to be interesting to see them kind of get some stellar competition before they have to come back. They'll have a bye week to get ready, and then they're back on TV, right? They're going to play Roswell in kind of a rivalry game. So that's going to be fun to be able to watch both of those teams. And as I've said, I think Milton has the best secondary in the country. A lot of star-studded dudes. So how will they look? They did pretty good week 1 against Collins Hill defensively, 13 points, getting after quarterback, forcing turnovers. This is a different test. So it'll be a lot of fun to see how they come out and if they can get a dub, go 2-0 before their bye week. So keep a watch for that. That'll be a lot of fun. But let's go ahead and transition to some basketball. We got some major news. Again, couldn't do this without my guy Kyle. He's always on it with the basketball. But sharpshooter and great scorer Jalen Colin from Kell High School commits to Alabama A&M. He was a huge part of their state championship winning team last season for the Kell Longhorns, their first in school history for the boys and for the girls. So I think that was major. And actually in this month alone, they've had 3 guys off of that roster commit. C.J. Brown committed to USF August 4th. And then Peyton Marshall committed to Missouri August 11th, which was streamed on 247 Sports. So I think they'll be right there, right? Obviously, I'll have to look more in depth about kind of 5A and look at some of the other programs in schools. But you're returning 3 of your key players from last season. I think they returned another guy to one of their guys off the bench. But I think they should be right there. They already got championship experience. They know what it takes to win it all. They got good guards, good shooting, a really good elite big man in Peyton Marshall. Who's 7 foot, going to Missouri. A problem in the paint, good rim protector, get you an easy bucket. They should be right back there. But obviously, we'll have our research and stuff like that. But we're also excited to announce, I'm not going to reveal the matchups yet because that's going to be revealed on TV, I believe, this weekend, if not this weekend next. But we are going to have a Corky Kell basketball. So that will be a lot of fun. That's in December. More details about the matchups will be revealed. But you guys stay tuned for that. That will be a lot of fun coming up. Me and Craig, I'm sure, will be on the sidelines. We'll get to see some up-close basketball action. I'm actually excited because that's kind of been my thing about basketball. I think we have some of the best talent in the state. And it's not even in just basketball. It's baseball, too. Like, so many great players are going to the MLB, and kind of it's tough that we don't get to televise it, I think. But excited that this is going to be televised. First year for it. Some great teams, get to look at some good talent, and kind of just be able to put it on display and exposure. And I just want to highlight the things that, as a company, that Score and obviously Peachtree TV in partnership with them and Corky has helped kids a lot, just putting them on the grand stage and allowing them to kind of be on TV and allowing them to use their film that they have from games. And a lot of times, man, as I brought up my earlier point about Justice Savage, right, it only takes one game sometimes, or it takes that moment for you to kind of get recognized by others. Sometimes, a lot of times, you'll fly under the radar, but just that one slither of kind of exposure can just go a long way for your career. And just sometimes you're not going to play Power 5. That's okay, but that could help you go get a Group 5 offer, which is still D1 football or basketball, or that could help you get a D2 or D3. Regardless, guys, to be able to go showcase your talent and play on the next level, whatever level that is, NAIA, D3, D2, D1, and be able to get an education on top of that and kind of have that backup plan in case it doesn't work out, there's nothing better than that. So I think that will be a lot of fun, great exposure for the athletes, good chance to see some of the best basketball and best talent in Georgia. And just to bring this up again, some of the top talent in the league coming from Georgia, right? Could throw a bunch of names out. You had Jaylen Brown, who went to Wheeler High School. He was covered very heavily, obviously by Score and others. He just received the largest contract extension in NBA history, $300+ million, right? That's one example. Anthony Edwards is a budding star. He just received a major contract extension, I think over $200 million, right? Playing for the Team USA. We got another guy, Isaiah Collier, who's going to USC. He's a heavily touted prospect, probably could be going into the draft next year. We got another guy, Ace Bailey right now from McEachern. Number 2 player in the country in 2024 class. So the talent is here. It does suck that some players are leaving. Obviously, Christian Anderson's in West Virginia now. Micah Tucker is also, I think he's in North Carolina now. Darion Reed, who's a 5-star player, moved on to Prolific Prep in California. But this talent and a lot of good talent that you see in the league is coming from Georgia. So I think that's a great thing. Being able to see it up close and personal will be a lot of fun. Another great matchup I didn't bring up, I'm going to shift back to football. Buford-Mallard Creek. I think that'll be an interesting game, right? Both teams are 1-0 kind of coming into this game. Buford made a statement against St. Francis that had, I think they were as high as top 6 or top 7, I think, in the country from Baltimore. The ending of the game kind of sucked. I'm not going to talk a lot about that. That's just not what you want to see. Like, if you lose, just take the L, man. But, they produced a shutout. That is impressive. You know what I'm saying? And KJ Bowden had a pick. I think he had a pick 6, but it got called back. I heard the D-line was getting after it. To do that against a nationally ranked team, and I think now Buford is top 10 nationally now. It's just great. And Mallard Creek is coming off a big win against Independence in North Carolina. So they're gonna come in this game ready. Last year, Buford kind of gave it to them,
Okay.
in that game. But this one's gonna be on the road.
Who's coming?
56-7 last year. Yeah, they gave it to him. I mean, and that was a home game, so it'll be different because this one's on the road. But love that Buford is scheduling national matchups out of the state, getting good tests early and often, allowing kind of Dylan Rayola to kind of mature in that offense, allowing their weapons to go to work. And I got to shout out Jordan Allen, man. Week 1, he had 140 yards receiving. So, how does he follow that up? And I think it's great for Buford because they can run it with Justin Baker, who's a heavily touted prospect in 2025 class. But if they have Jordan Allen, I think Devin Williams was playing both sides, and then you throw in an athlete in KJ, and you can run the ball, they're going to be very, very interesting and very good this year. And then, they obviously, as I said, this is no shade to Buford. Buford's a great organization, a great program. Also got some breaking news that was actually tweeted out by Rusty. I'll share in just a second. But I feel like this is the first year, and obviously I can't wait to see Dylan up close and personal. But I feel like this is the first year they got a guy at quarterback, and that changes a lot. And the reason why I went with that upset and Walton winning is because, obviously I think, Jeremy's just a different level guy. And he went in and he wasn't scared, and Coach Bruner wasn't scared, and they blew him with confidence, and they said their statement. Walton did kind of week 1 against Grayson. But I feel like they got a guy that they can go win a title winning Dylan Rayola. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they kind of come out, get another good test early against Mallard Creek, and just to see kind of how they respond after that big win at home, obviously against St. Francis. So other games they got, let's see, they have 2 touchdowns Justin Baker had. Okay, that's pretty big. Okay, so again, it kind of doesn't get a lot of easier for Buford really quick. After that, they're going to come home against North Cobb. And I know people are like, well, North Cobb got rocked by Westlake. But it's like North Cobb plays Buford tough every single year. I feel like every year that game comes down to the third or fourth quarter. The most times the fourth quarter, and it's like a one-possession game. Last year was the same thing. Justice Haynes had the game-winning touchdown, and they ended up winning. But every year that game comes down to the end, and it's just one mistake or one play you don't make or can't convert on the fourth down that decides that game. So I think that'll be a tough one coming out. Then they got Carver Atlanta, staple program in the 3A, made it to the semifinals the year before that, made it to the finals. They're trying to set a statement. We get to see them up close and personal this upcoming weekend in our Great Atlanta Bash. So they got a tough schedule. So I love the way that Coach Applin scheduled this schedule this year, and I think there'll be a lot of fun to kind of watch. So that's who Buford has coming up. So we will find out a lot about the Wolves. And I got to throw this in here. I talked to Craig about it. He's a Walton alum, and we talked about it off air. But sometimes, man, you'll see a team, and I don't think this will happen, but a team can get a lot of hype, right? And everyone's talking good about you, and oh man, Jeremy's next level, which he is. Bam Bride is a great athlete. Wyatt Sonderman can just beat you with a goal ball. He's physical. Wendell Gregory, nobody can block him. Ashton Woods is just a staple linebacker going to UNC. Daniel Calhoun on the left tackle is just an anchor on the line. And sometimes you can just see it can go to your head a little bit. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I want to see how do they respond against a Brookwood team who had a great thriller win against McEachern, but we know what Brookwood is going to do, right? Obviously, they can throw the ball, but Brookwood is going to be very, very, very physical. And they're going to run it down your throat. They got a good two-back system, right? And Braden Tyson and their other running back. So they're going to want to run the ball. And I love the way and how physical Walton was week 1 against Grayson. That was my kind of concern coming in, too. And they answered the bell, they answered the call. But this one's going to be at home, right? This is going to be in Raider Valley against Brookwood. So how do they just respond to all the hype, right? They finally are getting national notice after that statement win against Grayson. They're at a top 22 ranking after their statement win. They're above Carrollton right now. I think they are the second highest rated school or team in Georgia right now, nationally. Jeremy's finally getting some respect. I see Andrew Ivins even said the guy's a dude. He's the next level. We'll see if that changes his ranking at all. But he does, I think, the talent evaluation for 247 Sports. Window's also getting a lot of praise and things like that. So they have the mindset, and Coach Bruner and all their coaching staff does a phenomenal job. But how do you respond after all that hype? You're getting noticed by SportsCenter next now. Everyone's talking about you and how good Walton is. Everyone coming in, a lot of people I talked to said they had Walton whooping Grayson, which they did. They did it. So how do you respond week 2? That's my biggest thing. And I think they'll be fine. But that's going to be the key, right? Was that kind of a flash in the pan, or will Walton continue to set the statement throughout kind of the rest of the, weeks and schedule that, hey, man, we're not here to play. We focus, we determine, we got the talent, we got the coaching, we got the QB, we got everything we need to be successful this year. How did they respond against Brookwood? It's going to be kind of my biggest kind of question. And I think you'll find out a lot about Walton. Even after week 2, my next question will be, in the date I'm circling, North Cobb. We know how much that means to them. We know how much they want to beat them. 4 straight, I think, victories for North Cobb. How do they respond? Because I know Walton wants the 3 goals. Win the opener, which they did, win the region, and win state. So let's see how they respond. That's my biggest thing. But that's what I got for us headlines right now. We're going to go to my top 10 headlines for the weekend. We're going to take one more quick short break and wrap it up. Good. Interesting. That was close. Okay, guys. Sorry. Sending off this text.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, y'all. So, my favorite segment of the show. Top 10 headlines for the weekend. We did a tell of the tape. We did a little bit of my recruiting intel going on right now. We'll have more guys kind of coming up, man. But, actually, let me see. Do I have them in my headlines? It's kind of an out of state. Yes, I have them as number 8. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to mention them, so I'll mention them in a little bit. Okay, but this is a national one. Top basketball player in the country, Cooper Flagg, sets up visits for the fall. This includes Duke, Kansas, UConn. Got to see him a little bit in the EYBL this past summer. Really impressive. Many actually recently just reclassified from 2020, I think, 5 or 6 to 2025 class. So he's going to be really, really impressive, I think, for them. So I think he'll be a lot of fun to kind of watch and look after. So Cooper, man, he just has every facet of his game. And he talked recently just about a player he admired, right? And that's Jason Tatum. He said, that's a player I would love to play with. He said, it might not happen, but I really admire his game and I really admire how he plays and things like that. So, I mean, he just does everything well. Like, he can rebound. He can push the tempo as a forward. He's 6'7", 6'8". He's a good-looking jumper. He's not afraid to take the challenge defensively. He just checks off so many boxes. So, whatever program lands his player, Kansas, Duke, UConn, and all of his other offers, they're landing a really stud player. Probably be a one-year rental kind of a thing, but I think he checks all the boxes for the class. And if I had to make a prediction, I think he likes Kansas and Duke right now. So, obviously, that's going to be interesting to watch. But if you guys get a chance to watch him, some of his games will be televised on ESPN out there in Massachusetts. Go check him out, man. The kid's a lot of fun. All right, so number 2, this is actually volleyball. Tucker rallied back from a 1-0 deficit to beat Southwest DeKalb. They dropped the opening set 25-17 to the Panthers of Southwest DeKalb. They rebounded to win the second set 25-19, and that was aided by 11-4 run they had after the set was tied early on 7-7, and then Tucker's Santana Doan won 5 consecutive service points to make it 18-11 and help secure the win for them. So shout out to Tucker, big win coming back for Southwest Cap. Definitely go check out our rankings on scoreatlanta.com. All that is there, top teams across all classifications. So that's number 2. Number 3, I got this as my game of the week. Creekside versus St. Peter's Prep at Morehouse College. Creekside really impressed me, and they actually head coach Maurice Dixon won kind of our all-Corky coach kind of the event. Impressed with how they came out and how they looked. They pretty much controlled and dominated the game. I mean, Kennesaw Mountain made some things interesting late, but for the most part, they had a stranglehold on the game. They were physical. They got a pick 6 early. They was creating pressure with the quarterback. Makai Baru was doing a good job. He's going to Florida, committed to Florida right now. They just did a great job overall. They were running the rock. I really love their 2-back system. At our Georgia High School Media Day, head coach Dixon kind of raved about Roger McCreary and how great of a player he is and how he's a leader for the team. Okay. And a guy that flies under the radar a lot is Travis Terrell. And he led them in rushing, 169 yards, rushing and a touchdown. He was really, really impressive. I thought he did a magnificent job of, just kind of doing some big things for them. And he plays both sides of the ball well, right? He's a defender. He's come down and lays the hit. He got robbed of a pick 6, I thought. He just beat the player to the ball. It got called. It was unfortunate, but a couple plays later, Creekside gets the interception nonetheless anyway. But I think that's going to be a good test, right? They got a good win against Kennesaw Mountain. We'll see kind of how they look. Week 1 jitters. Hard for me to really rate them. Last year they missed the playoffs with a 2-3 region record. They should be in that region. They should be able to get a 3 seed, worst case, North Carl Walton, I got them under those 2. They should be able to get some things and kind of compete a little bit, I think. So we'll see how Kennesaw Mountain fares and how they continue to look. But big win for Creekside. They got a tough national schedule, St. Peter's Preps, and then after that, they go on the road to California to Mater Day. I think that is Labor Day weekend, so that'll be a lot of fun to see kind of how they answer the bell, answer the call after the kind of setting the tone week 1. So really impressive game for them. Looked really, really good. Impressive coaching staff. Really great school. That'll be a lot of fun. Now I got to get some love, man. The Chase Jamison balled out week 1 for Lanier. He said some of the things he wanted to accomplish at a Georgia High School Media Day. Talked with him. I think me and Kaylee had talked to him at that event. But he balled, man. 8 catches, 138 yards, 3 tutties. He did his thing, man. So a great performance. I think it's going to be such a great test this weekend. Obviously, nobody's talking about this matchup, but Peachtree Ridge and Lanier, right? Tyler Maloof, son of Keith Maloof, trying to turn around that school at Lanier. And Peachtree Ridge, as I said, they're kind of my favorite to win that region, right? I think it's between probably them right now and Norcross. No disrespect. I just think Peachtree Ridge has so much that they can do. I mean, they can run the ball. They got top-rated prospects. Darnell Kelly is already on a national radar. His name was name-dropped on an ESPN graphic at the Langston Hughes-Carrollton game. So the matchup for me, though, going into that game is Dorian Barney's a 4-star prospect in 26. I'm pretty sure we'll see what kind of defense they'll run. But if he's matched up with Jamison, can he, will he shut him down? Obviously, he's their best receiver. Will they allow him to shut him, or will they play more kind of a cover 1 or cover 3 defense? I think that'll be interesting to see. So that's my position matchup to watch out for this week. Between those two, can Jamison have that same success he had week 1 for Lanier, or will Peachtree Ridge kind of clamp down and kind of shut them down? We're going to find out. That's going to be big. All right, so here's my big news. Number 5, Buford right now. It's reported by Rusty. He had the tweet and everything, so give credit where credit is due there. Buford is building a $60 million football stadium across the street from their new school. A lot of money for a high school stadium. The one they have now is great, but that was reported earlier this week from Rusty. So, I mean, man, doing a good job. and setting ground to a new stadium. And it already looks like a college if you've ever been on their campus. So they continue to invest in their program. They're continuing to invest into their schools. And, I mean, Craig, you correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like they're pretty much good in every sport. That's softball, swimming, volleyball, baseball, obviously football, basketball, lacrosse last year. I mean, year in, year out, they're just good. I mean, so this is big for them. Curious to see how it's going to turn out and look. And I mean, that's a major development for the program, right? $60 million stadium. So we'll see how everything kind of shakes out, but that is major key. So they're obviously doing something right. All right, so that's number 5. Number 6, Keandra, Akri. She just picked up a Georgia Tech offer. She is the class of 2027 for basketball. She currently goes to Monroe High School. So I think that's big. Already getting major offers as a freshman. I haven't even played a varsity rep yet. For basketball, playing some obviously fall league ball right now. One of standouts for Kyle Sandy. So I think that's interesting, man. She's doing some big things as 2027 and as the class, and just doing a really, really great job early on. So she'll be one to obviously watch out for going forward from Monroe High School. I mean, that's big. I'm assuming you're doing things like that. She's going to have a big role in that offense this upcoming season from Monroe High School. So congrats to her. Keep grinding and doing a fabulous job. Number 7, big matchup. Norcross versus Mill Creek. I think we're going to find out a lot about both of these teams, right? This is actually a rematch of last year's game that was on ESPN, and Mill Creek set the tone early in that game. They won that pretty handily. I think the final score was 49-14. Now, obviously, we knew last year Mill Creek was just on a different level, right? Mill Creek had so many great athletes, right? Had Jamal Anderson. They had Caleb Downs, who looks like he's already getting compared to Mika Fitzpatrick, who's an NFL star right now. As kind of a prospect coming in. So I think he's going to start for Alabama this year. And, you know, obviously Mill Creek's replacing that, right? They do have King Joseph Edwards, who had a big impact week 1 in the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic, forcing, major sacks and TFLs and things like that. And Cam Robinson's a problem. He's a guy that always gets underlooked, and I think he has mid-major offers. But, I mean, you talk about a guy that just, no matter what the stage is, no matter what the lights are, I mean, this kid just always performs, man. I mean, this is the reason he made our all-Corky team. 200 yards and 2 touchdowns week 1? I mean, year in, year out, that kid just gets it done. And just want to give him a shout out. I see you, Cam. Like, you do a good job leading that program. And just obviously he gives all the love to his offensive line, who does a good job as well. Aiden Banfield, who's going to North Carolina, a staple on that line. But, I mean, he's just a tough runner, man. He has a highlight reel play. If you go back and look on Recruit Georgia, he just stiff-armed the guy. Just nasty play, just right down. So, I mean, that's going to be an interesting matchup. And my thing is with Norcross, and as I said, I got a little flack for it on our YouTube channel. But I'm not going to lie, y'all. I didn't know a lot of Norcross players. I only knew maybe 2 or 3. I know I'm my alma mater. That is my alma mater. I came from there. But I only knew about, like, Antonio Motor and Carson Lucky and Jackson Bussey. So 3 players I really knew. I didn't know a lot about their roster. And obviously A.J. Watkins. But they run a 2 quarterback system. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use A.J. kind of next week against Mill Creek. They use him in the same way because they were using him all over the field. He was throwing some passes. He was running the ball. He was receiving the ball. But they got a couple guys that can kind of throw at you. And Jamari Harold, I mean, what a Corky Kell debut, right? Made our all-Corky team, too. 5 catches, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he was just a mismatch, man. And he was torching Marietta's defense. So I think that's one of my questions is, how does Mill Creek's defense kind of match up against Norcross offensive weapons? And they got some guys. So I think that's gonna be a big question, right? Kind of coming out. And then on the other side of the ball, can Norcross slow down that kind of Mill Creek running game? That's a staple of their offense. It was last year. Hayden Clark obviously did a good job, but they weren't asking him to do too much. They had so many weapons. But I think if you're going to beat Mill Creek, you got to get pressure on the quarterback. You got to slow down their run. And you got to make, and no disrespect to Shane Throgmorton, you got to make him beat you. And I think we're going to find out this week. And I think that's a good week 2 game for both teams, kind of as a measuring stick to see really how good they are. So that's number 7 for me. Number 8, this is an out-of-state game, but we got to see this team at a Corky Kell 707 Invitational. Moody, they're going to play their first game against Pell City. I think that would be a lot of fun. That is in Alabama. I think Moody is hosting that game. Very impressive at Georgia Tech. Man, they got some dudes, man. Josiah Dozier, I think it's going to start for them. He has a cousin that played on the team a couple years ago. He's showing out at Arkansas right now, looking like he's going to get a lot of playing time. And then, Charlie Johnston, another 3-star player for them, very good. And, they do a good job, man. And that kind of fandom out there in Alabama and Moody is next level, man. So I think they're going to be really interesting to watch. And I think it's going to be interesting to kind of see, how they kind of come out and things like that. So week 1, I think a lot of college or high school football is starting up this week. Obviously, Georgia starts it a little bit early, but I think it'll be really, really interesting to see kind of how Moody kind of comes out. And they're going to be a team out of state. I'm going to be watching this season. Probably give them a couple shout-outs, but I know a few players, obviously have hit me up to do some recruiting on them. So we'll see how they shake out. It's going to be fun, and I'm curious to see how they perform. So that's one out-of-state matchup I kind of got my eye on. Moody and Pell City will be a lot of fun. Week 1 for Moody. All right, and then number 9, I want to give some credit to J.J. Sweat. She recorded her 200th career strikeout yesterday, a major milestone in her career. East Paulding right now in softball, they're off to a strong start to the season. They sit at 8-1 on the year. Only loss was to undefeated Noonan, and that was 3-0. So they're having a great year right now. She's a heavily recruited player in softball. Junior has been having a wonderful, wonderful season. So she's a staple on East Paulding. So that is number 9 for me. Number 10, you'll like this news, Craig. Jakari Harris, staple basketball player. He's already set up some official visits. I think he's narrowing down his recruiting, man. I think you could see him commit probably after these visits are done, probably right before the basketball season starts. So right now, supported by Joe Tipton of On 3. He has Georgia Tech for August 25th, Miami September 1st, Virginia Tech September 8th, and then Purdue September 15th, and LSU September 22nd. So they're going to be a lot of fun. I wanted to get out to a game and see kind of Grayson. I wasn't able to last year. They had a lot going on with their kind of basketball court last year and things like that. So I think it'll be a lot of fun, interesting to see kind of how they perform this season. I think if you're going to throw a lock in there or state championship contending team, I think you got to throw in Grayson, McEachern. Wheeler got some players, but I think they lost a lot. 3-4 of their key players are not coming back this year, so I think it'll be really, really interesting to see how they perform. But I think if you throw some locks in 7-8, got to throw Norcross in there too, obviously. But I think you got to throw them in there. I think that's kind of 7-8 right now. Obviously, we'll get to see them up close and personal, but I think you got to throw in Grayson. I think you got to throw in Wheeler as well. So that's number 10. It'll be really, really interesting. But before we close the show for today, major matchups this weekend. Make sure you go to scoreatl.com, Great Atlanta Bass matchups and things like that. So, Craig, man, anybody you having on the show tomorrow?
Yep, Eric Williams, Maynard Jackson, head coach.
Okay.
Kick off against Miller Grove.
Okay, so he's going to have on Maynard Jackson's head coach before they play Miller Grove and in our Great Atlanta Bass matchup. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a lot of fun for Craig tomorrow. Thanks once again for tuning in and watching my show and things like that. That'll be a lot of fun as well. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a lot of fun. Thank you guys as always for the support. If you haven't been able to go check it out, go watch our Underrated and Overlooked podcast. Man, y'all guys did numbers on that. That was a lot of fun. Over almost 150 views, Craig, from our live stream a couple days ago. So we're going to have so much great stuff this season, guys. This is a week 1 kind of show. We're going to have standout performers every single week. We're going to have our top kind of underrated players. We're going to be talking college football, professional football. So go send us kind of your top performers, your top plays, and we'll talk about them all season long. And real quick, thanks, Jimmy, man, for always tuning in. You had a comment and said Carver Columbus win big last week but fell out of your top 10. Peach County and Oconee County lose but are still in. I guess my Tigers won't get respect until we beat Brookwood 9-15. So actually, Jimmy, I don't do rankings, so don't be mad at me. I do kind of all-state teams and things like that, and kind of just players and how they kind of match up. Craig doesn't do rankings either. I mean, he does 4A through 7A. So that's not us that are kind of low down and are kind of sleeping on Carver Columbus. Actually, we have another guy, Seth, that does 1 through 3A. So he's the one that did that and had them falling out. But we're going to watch them closely this season and give our thoughts on, obviously, Carver Columbus. But
They're 10 in the AJC.
okay, Craig said he thinks they're 10 in AJC.
But, I mean, that was a huge win over 4A school week 1.
Yeah. So if you're watching, thanks, Jimmy, as always, for tuning in, man. We appreciate your support. We know you're a busy guy, but thanks a lot. And thanks to all our viewers, man. A great show. Stay tuned for tomorrow, and we will see you guys later on. Peace.